All right, let's look at quick quad number 5 here. So the left-hand side, ACT number 9 set. Number 1, we've got a parallelogram ABCD with dimensions in inches. It's shown in the diagram below. What is the area of the parallelogram? Well, parallelogram area has a formula. To find the area of a parallelogram, it is just the base times the height. All right, and we can see down here that this little triangle is labeled as a distance of 3. This guy has a distance of 6, which tells me that we have a base of 9. The height, we can see that this part of the triangle, or this left-hand side of the parallelogram, has a height of 4. 9 times 4 takes me to 36, okay? Not too bad there. Just remember the formula for the area of a parallelogram. Number 2, if a is equal to b plus 2, then what is parentheses b minus a to the 4th equal to? So it looks like we've got a substitution problem here. We've got a value of a, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute that value of a in for a. So in parentheses, I have b minus, maybe this makes it a little bit easier to see, we have b plus 2. So instead of writing a there, we have the b plus 2, all of that being squared. Well, we have a negative stuck to the parentheses here, so we can look at our distributive property. So when I distribute this negative, we have b minus b. Well, not squared, it's to the 4th, sorry. So the b's are pretty much going to go away, but then we're going to distribute this negative to the 2. So pretty much what's left inside our parentheses here is we're going to have a negative 2 to the 4th. Okay, if you know what negative 2 to the 4th is, go for it. If not, double check in your calculator. Biggest thing to remember here, sorry. So my kind of keystrokes here, remember, if we're not doing a squared, right, there's a little button down here. To get to the exponents is a little caret top. Okay, the little caret top's right above the division sign. And we're going to put in a 4. Biggest thing also, remember to use your parentheses. Okay, if we're doing negatives, we don't use parentheses, we are probably going to get it wrong there. So when I hit enter, negative 2 to the 4th gives us a positive 16. So it looks like we're going to circle letter E and we're going to move on. All right, number 3. A park has a shape and dimensions and blocks given below. A water fountain is located halfway between B and D. So halfway between B and D, we have a water fountain. Which of the following is the location of that water fountain from point A? So we've got point A hanging out down here. We have B and D, so if we draw a straight line from B and D, we want to know what the halfway mark in there is, right? So it said we have a water fountain hanging out in the middle of B and D. Where is that in relation to A? So it's talking about halfway. I think we're talking about midpoint here. So it wants to know the midpoint between lines B and D. Well, if we want to think about this as a giant axis, right? It says from letter A. So if we want to think about an axis, right? If we want to think of it that way, letter A is at 0, 0. Okay, so which would mean letter B here would be at 10, 0. Okay, well then I think we got to do a little bit of work here to figure out where D is. Okay, so this entire side is 12, but this takes off 3. So if I take 12 away from 3 away from 12, we know that this has at least a height of 9. Well, how far over is it? Well, kind of same drill here. This entire side here is 10, but they also told you here that this side is a 7. So it looks like it's D in relation to A. It's going to be 7 units over, and it looks like it's going to be 9 units up. Okay, well, that's kind of half the battle here, because now we got to figure out what would be the middle of coordinate point 10, 0 and 7, 9. Okay, so let's look at our X values. Well, X, you're finding the middle, so you're finding an average. What's the average of 10 and 7? Remember, in order to find an average, you add up the values and divide by how many of them you have. So 10 plus 7 is 17. 17 over 2. 17 over 2 is 8.5. So it looks like in relation to A here, we have to go 8.5 units to the right. Well, I would check to see, if we're even on the same page here right now, and see if any of the answers have something that says 8.5. We'll look at letter D here. It says 8.5 blocks east, which is exactly what we're talking about here. They gave you a cardinal direction of north. So if we're talking about letter A, yeah, we are going to be 8.5 units east. I'm not even going to worry about why, because none of the other answers even has an 8.5 there. Okay, kind of process of elimination. And our last question, the larger of two numbers exceeds twice the smaller number by 8. The sum of twice the larger and 3 times the smaller number is 65. If x is the smaller number, which equation below determines the correct value of x? So that is a mouthful. I would start here because it tells you, it kind of gives you a starting point. It tells you x is the smaller number. So is being a good indication for equals, we're just going to say x is the smaller number. Okay, so that kind of gives us a foundation to kind of build upon there, okay? I'm going to go back and reread just to kind of wrap my head around what was going on. The larger of two numbers exceeds twice the smaller number by 8. Okay, the larger of the two numbers exceeds twice the smaller number by 8. So we have the larger number. So we have larger. The larger number is equal to twice the smaller. Well, we let smaller be x here. So if I'm twice the smaller, we have 2 times the value of x. Okay, and it exceeds. Well, for exceeding expectations, we're doing more than what we should have done, right? That should be an indication of addition. It exceeds that number by 8. Okay, and that's kind of what this first sentence translates to, right? We're taking a worded a sentence into a numerical expression there, right? So we let x be the smaller number. The larger number is equal to twice the smaller plus 8. And then the next sentence we read, well, the sum, right? The sum, so we know we're dealing with addition here. The sum of twice the larger. Okay, so again, twice meaning we're doubling. So we have twice the larger number. Well, we just indicated that the larger number is 2x plus 8. Right? The larger number is 2x plus 8. We need twice of that value. And again, we're talking about a sum. So we need to add that to 3 times the smaller number. Okay? Well, the smaller number we let be x. If I want 3 times that amount, well, we're going to multiply by 3. And it says the sum is, remember, is means equals 65. Okay? So we built our nice little equation there. Let's go through our answers. And see which one we're going to end up with. So we have 2 parentheses, 2x plus 8 plus 3x, and it looks like my answer is D there. So very wordy, these typically, these are a little challenging. Don't just read it and kind of get lost and say, screw it, circle and answer. A lot of times they will kind of give you a foundation like this guy did here, x being the smaller, kind of build your block from there, How many times did we reread that? These types of problems, you probably will have to reread a couple of times here.